or in my case, a group of 10. And during that time, they will be doing various things. They'll be talking about some of the reports that they're writing and some of the ideas that they're synthesizing, the impressions, and sharing that with the class. And that's always a really valuable time because there's so many different settings. I like to try to mix the groups so we have, high school, middle school, elementary, so that people learn through others about what's going on at the elementary school if you're placed at a high school and vice versa. During that time, they'll also be doing case presentations. And what that usually entails is they play a snippet, a short 3 to 5 minute snippet of a recording of a student that they're working with, and they kind of case that out, ask for feedback from peers, have questions from their peers. You're familiar with that. So that's what we'll be doing on Tuesdays from 9:30 to 11 every week. So we'll be receiving that 1.5 hours of group supervision. That's type number 1. Type number 2 in practicum, what they're also going to be doing is having what we call triadic supervision. And what that means is that there'll be 2 students with 1 faculty member for 1 hour once a week. So I have 10 students. I'm going to have 5 appointments, basically, 5 1-hour appointments where I meet with those 2 students in a triad, because it's me and the 2 students, triad, for 1 hour a week. And they're going to be required to, talk about what's going on in their schools, talk about cases that they're working on, challenges that they're having, getting feedback from their peer and from me, and so forth and so on. The third type of supervision that they're going to be getting during practicum is from you. And that is going to happen at the site, obviously. The expectation is that they meet with you for an average of 1 hour per week for site supervision. And we recognize that that can sometimes be challenging to have a 1 hour per week standing appointment just based on the busy nature of the school. So that you can adapt that to make it 2 half-hour sessions. We really recommend that you don't cut it down any more than that, because then it becomes kind of a 10 minutes here and there and it loses its value. It's more of sort of a kind of an emergency kind of check-in, basic exchange of information, and that's not what supervision's meant to be. So one tip I have for you is ask your student to come to you for the supervision appointment. Let's say that you have it every Monday at 11. I'm just making that up, but you have it Monday at 11. Ask your student to come with you with an agenda, a supervision agenda, so that you don't just sit there and say, okay, what do you want to talk about? How are things going? Let's just kind of, then it becomes kind of a shoot the bull session, and then that loses its value as well. Ask them to come to you with an agenda of very specific questions, maybe an update on what they're doing, a particular case or a student or a group or a classroom guidance lesson that they want feedback on. And the onus should be on them. This is their time, and they need to ask from you what it is that would help them the most. So getting them into the habit of coming with specific questions so that they're prepared for this time together. That they don't just say, oh, here we are, okay, well, I don't know, I don't really have anything to talk about, everything's fine. I always tell my students, you will always have a question if you're looking for it. If you know I have to come prepared with something I want feedback on, your mind works differently. So I would just give you that tip to try to make sure that they are prepared with an agenda of stuff to talk about. Once we hit internship, at the very end of October, the supervision schedule changes slightly from our end. We'll still be having our 1.5 hour a week group supervision time, but what we do is we drop our triadic down to every other week. So instead of meeting with them every week, we sort of fade a little bit, meet with them every other week. But you guys stay consistent the whole entire year with your 1 hour of site supervision. And Robert's going to give you, Dr. Martinez is going to give you some good ideas about some things that you might want to do during that time together that you have with your student. Okay, now on to internship. Okay. They're still going to be using, in terms of keeping track of it at time, they're still going to be using that same form that they used in practicum. Again, my recommendation, just sign it every week and don't let it pile up so that there's never a question about who was doing what, when, and where. Let's see, what else do you need to know about? That's all just basic. Okay. They're going to also be doing another recording that they have to turn in. Remember, in practicum, their first recording had to do with basic counseling skills. The second recording that they have to turn in for internship has to be of a session using solution-focused group counseling. An initial session with a client. So what would that look like if I were meeting a client for the first time using solution-focused group counseling? And again, we evaluate those counseling sessions with a standard rubric that you can also find on our supervisor resource tab. But it is that initial solution-focused re-counseling session. So there's 2 tapes they have to turn in the whole semester, right? You've got your basic skills, and then you've got your initial solution-focused re-counseling session. Okay. So with regard to responsive services, they're just continuing to participate as appropriate and as applicable in whatever teams that you're a part of in your school. And here comes the final requirement for internship. You'll notice that these requirements are really short and sweet because we only have from the end of October to the beginning of December. It's very short. One thing that they have to do in internship is they have to have what we call a shadow day. One of the main pieces of feedback that we tend to get from students pretty much every year is they want more opportunities for cross-level experiences. You know, it's everything, every decision you make is a pro and a con, and it's great that they get this really in-depth experience for a full school year in one place. But the con is that they don't get too much of the other stuff. And so we're trying as much as possible to build in some of those cross-level experiences. So in internship, we have them, and they're going to do more of this in the spring, just to give you a heads up. But for now, we're talking about fall. And for the fall, what we have them do is we have them shadow one of their classmates at a site that is at the same level but a different district. Okay, if possible. That's optimal. That might not be, you know, might not work out in your particular case. In your particular case, you might need to keep them in your district, and if that's the case, that's okay. But we try to say, okay, we're going to keep you at the same level, but branch out a little bit. You know Durham, kind of. Go see what's going on in Lake County, or vice versa. In your case, we have one student placed in Chatham, so they might not be able to, it might be a little bit more difficult, you know, because there's just fewer people, but they'll find classmates and they'll collaborate, and, you know, if we need to step in and help facilitate that, that's okay too. I know that in the past, some people in Chatham, what they've done is they've gone over to an elementary school, even if they don't have a classmate placed there. So we're flexible and we'll work that out, but that's the optimal situation. So basically what will happen is you'll have, let's take Stacy for an example, you'll have your student go somewhere else and you'll have someone else come to you. Okay. One of the things that I would caution you on are 2 things. Number one, put a limit as to how many students you want visiting your school. Let's just take Carborough Elementary, for example. Word gets out that Amy's awesome and Carborough's awesome and everyone wants to go to Carborough. Well, not everybody can come to Carborough because that puts a lot of stress on your schedule and everything else. So you can say, hey, you know, have 1 student or 2 students, but not 5 or 6. So that's number one. Another tip that a supervisor gave last year, which I think is also really, really valuable, is try to plan for the day. So when the student comes, when you, let's say someone's coming to your school, Tammy, to shadow your student at the high school, you know, really kind of try to make a plan as to how this day should be best spent, so it's not hanging out. One of the things that they do have to do in their human development class this semester is they do have to do a developmental observation on a student that is at a different grade level than where they work. So if I'm placed in an elementary school, I need to do a developmental observation on a student that is, you know, an adolescent maybe. So they could use that time to maybe do their observation, among other things. But I would just say, number one, put a limit on how many students you're willing to have, and number two, really try to kind of make some plans and make that day as structured as possible for the visitor. Okay.
I have a question about that. Because I'm at a K-12 charter. And if she wanted to observe, do you want it to be a site supervision situation, or can she can go to my high school, or invite one of the other students to come to my school?
I'm open to any of those ideas. I think it's what's most valuable for the student, really. So if you have a student that really wants to see what it's like in Durham, or what it's like in, you know, where a different district, they might say, hey, it's K-12, and can I, you know, I'm flexible about that. Okay. All right. So just a couple of other things that I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about. We require our students to attend the North Carolina School Counselor Association Conference, which is held in Greensboro. And that's going to be on Thursday, November 3rd for our students. That's the full day that we have them attend. So they should be planning for that. I know that's not a day that they would normally be at your schools anyway, but we don't have class that day so that we can make it possible for them to attend. The other thing that they're talking to them about right now is they're going to strongly, strongly encourage students to present poster presentations at NCSCA. So that's another way that you could be helpful, is if they're like, I don't know what to present and I don't know how to do this, you might have some great ideas for them. So for example, bless you, for example, if you know that they did this great group that was a transition group for students new to McDougal Elementary School, then maybe you could help them conceptualize how they could present this in a poster format and how they would present their pre-post data and that kind of thing. Because many of them are kind of struggling, with how to crystallize topics and how they would go about that. So that would be a great way for you to be supportive is, ways like innovative practice ideas that they've done, anything that they've done to affect achievement data or, sky's the limit really, creative approaches, especially if there's a unique need at the school. So groups that they've done, effective lessons that they've presented, these can all be turned into really excellent poster presentations. And again, that is not until November 3rd, so they have some time to really work on that. So I wanted to just put that as a heads up.
Do we know when they have to submit for approval for a poster session?
That's a good question. I don't have that date.
It's posted on the website.
It's on the website, but I don't know the date.
It's usually
offhand.
close to the beginning of October.
Okay.
But sometimes they extend it, just depending on how many graduate students.
Do you know also, Vanessa, if they have to, when they submit, do they have to actually submit the title or do they just have to submit for a spot for a poster?
They usually have to submit the
The title, okay. I know for presentations, obviously, but.
I can tell you real quick.
Okay, awesome.
I had a question too. If we're on the board of NASCA, can they attend a board meeting with us? We have to be there Tuesday night or like a couple of days before. Can they come follow us or shadow?
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be a great professional development opportunity for them, yeah. Just kind of see what, their state organization looks like and how they could become involved later on, and that's great. Yeah. That would be really, really valuable. Really valuable. Okay, so I think I've mentioned all of the points that I had down here to mention. Was there anything else that sticks out for you as still being unclear, or do you need a little bit of extra guidance with? Anything else you're wondering about?
If they attend something that you do, like I'm thinking our school has some curriculum nights for parents and families, things like that, can that count towards their hours?
Absolutely.
Obviously, it would be indirect.
Yes, absolutely. It can count toward that. So when they're doing, back to school nights or, anything like that, career nights for parents, well, there's a lot of high schools have a lot of those kinds of things for college information. That's all, all countable hours for sure. And technically, when they're going to professional development, so if there's some kind of a workshop or professional development opportunity, and I need to mention something about that in just a minute, that your district offers, that is also stuff that they can count toward indirect service. Speaking of professional development, I just wanted to put that out there. UNC Chapel Hill, we're working on putting together a professional development presentation specifically for elementary school counselors. And it's going to be held here at the CCEE, most likely in November. November 8th is the day we're looking at because that is a teacher work day for Chapel Hill and for Durham, which was kind of cool that we at least found 2 districts with a calendar that coincided. That's really not easy. And we'll do this at other times too, but the topic is most likely going to be on child-centered play therapy approaches for school counselors.
That deadline's a little sooner than I thought. It's September 19th
Okay.
for the poster sessions, and then there's also a luncheon that is required and provided for all the graduate students.
On that 3rd of
On that same
November?
day.
Awesome.
So that allowed them to go to the opening meeting, and then the poster sessions are in the afternoon from 1:30 to 3:30.
Perfect. Okay, great. So yeah, that gives your students about a month to kind of think about what a good topic would be. And again, topic could be probably broad and maybe fine-tuned. I'm thinking, what do you think? As we get closer to the date. But yeah, I think that's a great way that y'all could be helpful, is by, you know, suggesting a couple of ideas and possibilities for poster presentation topics.
What are topics like another has?
So for example, let's say, just like I was mentioning, like, for example, let's say that your student, because they are going to be doing a group, let's say if they want to present on that group. They did a group for students who, kindergarten students who are having difficulty adjusting to their new school year. And maybe here's some pre-post data, here's some creative approaches for working effectively with kindergarten students that are dealing with that issue. That could be an example of a poster. Maybe they've even just done some research that's not applied on a specific topic, such as the achievement gap or specific needs, you know, or presenting, maybe they're in a very unique school. What about the new charter school? And maybe talking about, this is what it looks like to start a school counseling program at a brand new charter school. And this has been our experience. These are some examples of some things that we've had to consider and some things that we've had to do starting up a brand new program. That would be a great topic. I could go on, but I kind of gives you some ideas. It could be very applied. Those are the things that, in my opinion, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but for the practicing school counselors that come to our conference, that's valuable because it's practical. It's something that they can say, okay, well, that's kind of how they did it at that school, and my situation's not exactly like that, but I can take some of these ideas and I can, you know, so that's valuable stuff. And they've got a lot of data sometimes, the students do, because they evaluate their groups, and that's all great stuff to present. Okay, anything else that we still need to talk about with regard to practicum and internship requirements? Anything else?